Hello and welcome to the Photography Live Show. I'm your host Zulf, and today we're looking at should you get a DSLR camera or a point and shoot camera for photography, especially if you're a beginner. So the idea around this is going to be I'm going to give you some options and see how they can help you, because there are loads of options out there for DSLR cameras. However, should you get one, or do you want to just stick with a point and shoot? What is a point and shoot? Let's have a quick look at that first. So point and shoot is denoting a camera which automatically focuses and adjusts its exposure settings when the shutter release is pressed. So that's interesting. A point and shoot is going to do everything for you. You're going to basically have a small camera. It'll be a lot easier to carry, and when you take a picture, it does everything for you. So it's automatically basically doing all the settings. So is that something you need? Is that something you want? In today's episode, we're going to cover that and find out what is the best option for you, especially if you're a beginner. So stay tuned on the Photography Live Show. And before we continue, a quick message from our sponsor. This show has been made possible by DSTE Technologies. We have a link in the description for you to be able to pick up your batteries. The link is for the Canon range of cameras. However, if you follow the link and go to DSTE's manufacturer Amazon shop, you can actually find a battery for your camera. So that's going to be a good price and a reliable battery for you and your camera. Okay, so straight into it there now. Is a point and shoot camera cheaper than a DSLR camera? If you've been following the channel, you would have seen I made a video a couple of days ago where I found you a camera, a DSLR camera for under 100, and in my example it was under 100 pounds. We found a camera and a lens which was a DSLR camera. Some point and shoots that I've been looking at are a bit more than that. You could easily spend 300 pounds on a point and shoot. So now you got to weigh up what is the reason you want a point and shoot. If you're traveling and you don't want a big camera, the point and shoot fits in your pocket easily. You can say it's another mobile phone. It's going to be the size of your mobile phone, a little bit thicker. However, it will give you photos if you're not too into your photography. This is the Photography Live Show, so you got to be into your photography, guys. But this is the DSLR camera. You can see that needs a full-on kit. You're going to have the lens, you're going to have the body, you're going to have batteries. You'll need a bag, and you might have an additional lens, which is the benefit of that, because you can have multiple lenses. However, you know what? Let's have a quick look at an article before we continue and see what are the best point and shoot cameras at the moment. So right now, I did a quick search and Digital Camera World has an article. Also, if you're in chat, make sure to say hello and let me know if you're thinking about buying a camera and what you're thinking about buying. The show has been designed for replay purposes, so make sure to check the description. You'll see a breakdown of the show and chapters to help you navigate it. So that's that out the way, but we are live today, so make sure to say hi. Quick look, the best point and shoot cameras in 2020. That's interesting that we get a Canon. Canon makes some amazing DSLR cameras, but they are offering us a point and shoot option, and it's a little, how do you say that? IXS? It's I, isn't it? IXS, I think. 8x zoom and bags more style than its price suggests. Oh, it skipped straight to 7 there. Let's get back there. Okay, so there, very easy to use, which is a good point if you're new to photography. Slender body, which is also good. Smaller low resolution rear LCD, and video not full HD, so you're probably gonna get 720p, which may be okay because it's not a video camera really. So that's option one, a power shot camera, $89.99. So the question is, would you compare that to a DSLR? Interesting. That is interesting, because the one that we came up with was a DSLR, the one that I found for under 100, and that was a good option to actually buy, because what it allowed you to do was interchange the lenses. So that may be something you want to keep your eye on. So let's have a quick look at another option. What else is available. Number 2, Sony CyberShot. Sony, another great manufacturer of cameras. There's a few more here. I'll link you in the description to the article so it doesn't bore you. Let's just check that out. Okay. Panasonic Lumix. Wow, okay, that's a nice one. But again, look at the price. John Lewis, £299. Okay, so another Canon, £359. So the main bit here is basically price. We're looking at price to see what difference will that offer you. Oh, that looks like a nice one. Canon PowerShot G9 Mark II, over £400. Okay, so that's a quick look at price. But I think what we need to look at is, are point and shoot cameras worth it? That's the main thing. We have some guests on the show, so I've been able to get segments of video where they're actually providing us some video. So they're actually giving us a demonstration of different cameras and what they're capable of. So that would be nice to include in the show. I'll bring you that in a second. However, I think it's time we looked at, just have a look, the first segment. So I'll bring you that first segment, which is basically, we're looking at point and shoots. We're talking about DSLR cameras, but mobile phones are point and shoots in a way. They're probably a bit better than point and shoot and a bit below DSLRs, that little gray area, because there's loads of benefits on mobile phones. You can edit on them. You can take photos. It gives you some changing abilities for ISO and shutter speed. But we have a guest who will speak to us. So let me bring you this. Ula talks about the iPhone and some benefits. So let's bring you that. 5 tips he's going to give us. And I'll come back to you after this segment.
Phones in 2020, they're really capable, technology is progressing really fast, and today I want to help you with the 5 simple tips to take better photos with your phone. Specifically with iPhone, because that is a device which I'm using, but that is mainly will be general rules which will be applying to all devices. So stay tuned, it's not only for Apple fanboys. And let's start with the tip number 1. And tip number 1, it's a light. Light is essential thing. You as a professional already know that if you want to take a decent picture with your APS-C camera or the full frame, you need enough light. With the phone it can be more important, because here you have a much more smaller sensor compared with other cameras, and it's needed more light, of course. In the daytime it's not a problem, this camera can take a decent photos, but if we're talking about low light situation, then it can be the challenge for this phone. But right now in the phone they have this night shot option where it's dropping shutter speed to 3 seconds. It's taking okay shots. It's not super decent, but still it's okay. You can play with these photos. But again, to fix this one, you can use, like example, flashlight on your phone, or use separate flashlight just to highlight your object and make sure that you can take a great picture in the night. So that is not problem at all for this device if you have a great solution with the light. Tip number 2. And tip number 2 is pretty simple, because nowadays devices have a lot of different cameras, let's say it. Not lenses, because I want to say lenses, but that is a cameras. So phone have a couple cameras: telephoto, wide angle lens and ultra wide lens. And here I recommend to use only telephoto for a start, because telephoto giving you the best quality out of the phone. If we're talking about ultra wide, that is the worst quality, and if we're talking about wide, it's something in the middle. It's not good, it's not bad, but it's better to use this camera or lens in the daylight, then it will be perform well. If it's low light situation, use telephoto, 100%. Tip number 3, and tip number 3 is pretty standard, I think, for all photographers. Don't use the standard angles. You don't want to have these boring photos when you like and trying like, yeah, let's do like that. Try to play with the phone, try to take low angles with your phone. Like example, this picture from the left, that is a picture which I done today with a low angle and with this phone. Looks pretty great, I think so. At least this cup of coffee I want to buy right now. Once again, maybe I need to go and buy coffee. But yeah, play with your phone, try different angles, don't be standard. Try to put some other object in front of your object and try to hide half of the lens and see what you can get. Try to play with the phone, don't be standard, because standard it's boring. You don't want to be boring. If you want to make sure that your Instagram will be growing fast, you need to play with angles. You need to be, let's say, different from others. So tip number 4, to bring your photos on totally new level, use editing software. Like example Lightroom. It's totally free, you can use it right away, you can download it from the App Store. I'm pretty sure it's available also in Google Play. That is a tool which can help you to edit your photos and bring them on totally new level. You can create your own presets, you can practice. If you don't want to pay for the license on Adobe, you can use just Lightroom on your mobile device because it's totally free and you can at least understand how it's working, if you like it or not, if you want to buy a professional license or not. So play with editing software and it's help you to create your own style. Your own style quite important. That is how people can identify that that is your job, that is your Instagram, that is, I don't know, your video, and etc, etc, etc. So that is quite important. And tip number 5 is pretty simple. Tip number 5 is keep practicing. Keep practicing each day, take a couple photos just to make sure that you're on track with the last trends and you know what your phone is capable of. Because sometimes people, when they used phone once and after that like a couple weeks later they like, let me try again, and he already not remember which settings he set up previously, how to use the settings, etc, etc. Continue to practicing with your devices. It can be camera, it can be phone, it can be anything what you're using to take photos or videos, but you need to continue to practice to make sure that you know your device really well and you know what this device is capable of, because that is quite important for everyone who working in photography and videography, to know your limitations, to know what you can do with such.
Thank you, Ula. That was amazing. Some tips there which are really helpful. So those are 5 tips from his mobile phone. Ula's got a great channel. I have linked him in the description, and there will also be a playlist of the full video so you can check that out. He's got some amazing b-roll shots as part of that clip he made, and make sure you check out his channel. He's got a lot of stuff around video and cinematic photography and videography, some great tips. Thank you. We have got another segment coming later in the show where we'll actually show you some of the stuff in practice, which will be helpful because it's a backpacking channel. And they do a lot of videos and they use different types of cameras, and they have a point and shoot, a camcorder and an action camera. So later in the show we'll be bringing you that with sample footage from them, which will be really interesting. But what we'll do now is we'll go on to a quick case study. So if I show you my desktop on Reddit, Ask Photography is a great community, and DSLR or point and shoot for beginner wildlife photography. That was a question. So that is interesting now because you can get different types of cameras. Everybody has different types of shooting. So in this example, it's wildlife photography. So I'm looking to upgrade from my phone and binoculars for bird and wildlife photography, but I'm hesitating between going for the Panasonic, which is a type of bridge camera that Panasonic is, and a used DSLR and lens. I'm looking at a used Nikon D5300 and a Nikon 70 to 300 VR. The price is around, in Canadian dollars, with tax, 700, and if I get the D5300 the lens would come to about the same. So I'm wondering if for the price there are a lot of advantages of getting a DSLR versus starting out with a point and shoot. I know I would be getting way less range with the DSLR, but I would have better picture quality and somewhere to grow from. Okay, so the main thing there is the Panasonic that he's looked at will have a good focal distance, so you can actually zoom in. So based on most of the comments and the replies, he was basically given this suggestion as the top: DSLR, because you can buy better lenses rather than a whole new camera, lenses as your interest grows. So if you notice, he was looking at a price budget range of about 700. So £700 or dollars in that case for a point and shoot or a DSLR. If you're serious about photography and you want to use it and find out what you're doing, you could buy a camera body and buy multiple lenses as you get better, exactly like the comment said. So you don't have to change the whole camera body. You just change, well, the whole camera, because that would have been the body and the camera. So that's interesting on Reddit that they've come up with that suggestion, and many of the people that discussed it also came up with that option. So that was interesting to see. So point and shoot versus smartphone versus DSLR camera. I'll put point and shoot and smartphone into similar categories, but DSLRs, you'll have to have a bigger budget, you'll have to have more gear, you'll have to have lenses for specific purposes. So in that example, wildlife, you would want a long focal length lens on his camera, and that would perform well. So that was very interesting actually, because I was reading the article the other day. Are point and shoots better than DSLR cameras? I would say no, from a price perspective, because if you get a good point and shoot that does HD video, has a microphone port, and offers raw photos, you're going to be easily spending £400. You get a DSLR which offers all of those things for about £400, but you've got a future proof. So that's something you want to seriously think about. And digital camera benefits over point and shoot are, you have got an option there for a professional camera with multiple lenses, which you can change as you grow. You can use it for multiple purposes as well. For example, right now I'm using a DSLR camera as a webcam. So all these things come into play and allow you to upgrade your package, as it were. What I'll do now is, I think it's time we showed you some sample footage, so an actual example. So let's have a quick look at that.
When we are filming each other or the landscape shots, we use our camcorder and its great big viewfinder. We find that it is much more precise than using the screen. It is not enough for our needs, and our big camera simply can't be beaten here. Our camcorder Sony RX100 has the ability to 20x optical zoom, and for us it means that we can easily capture all the nature details and spot animals at a great distance while still having decent quality. Here you can compare the shots of the same scene from a point and shoot 2.9x zoom and a camcorder 20x zoom. And it seems that as of right now there is simply no other or very few alternative cameras on the market that can match this characteristic. The second reason why we love our camcorder so much is its great ability to stabilize the shot. It has a 5-axis optical steady shot stabilization, and we believe it to be one of the best in the market. And when you're hiking and walking, it's super important. Here you can see the difference between two cameras. Usually with the other cameras you need to use the Steadicam in order to have similar stabilization. Also, our point and shoot camera doesn't have an indicator of light when it is recording compared to the two red indicators that we have on the action camera. Comparing the focus properties on the action camera, it is very stable due to its fixed focal length and very wide angle. On the other hand, with the point and shoot, focus can be lost sometimes and needs a manual adjustment. So still, for filming us both in the shot, we prefer the wide angle of the action camera, and for small details and faraway shots, our camcorder. We do acknowledge that the sensor format is different in all of the cameras, and even though it is smaller on the action camera and camcorder than on a point and shoot Sony RX100, we personally didn't feel the difference on the screen and while editing the videos. So the point and shoot camera is more suitable for the indoors, where it actually starts to show off its abilities, and there you can feel the difference. As well as in the darker conditions, it is clearly a winner. But as we're filming mostly outdoors and during the daytime, it doesn't matter that much to us. For our needs though, we still feel that it can cover our big digital camcorder. Probably not quite as well. But we realized that for having the best effect, the DSLR camera with interchangeable lenses is the best match, and it simply can't be beat.
Thank you there, Walking Nature World. That was a quick clip from Walking Nature World, another YouTube channel, their backpacking channel. So it's actually really interesting. They go to different places around the world and they have different cameras to help them. So that's a great example of footage they've used there to show you the difference between point and shoot. They've even got a camcorder, which I use as well. So there's different types of camcorders you can use for video and photography. There are options for higher images from point and shoot cameras as well. So that's something that is very interesting. Example they used was a Sony RX100. So if I do a quick search, I've just gone to see what sort of price range that camera is, because we've seen it in action and what it performs like. And you can pick up one of these Carl Zeiss lenses, Sony point and shoot camera for £145. So that is an option there that will get you shooting as a beginner photographer. So it's not too pricey. Let's have a quick look. That is a second-hand camera, and it's got a USB cable, wrist strap, no original box, but that's a used camera. You can see there was an option that I offered you for £100, and that was a separate one whereby we looked at a DSLR camera for under 100. But that would be a good comparison for a cheap DSLR versus a point and shoot. But if you're traveling, you're in backpacking situation, you're going to have loads of things to think about. You're going to have loads of packaging, loads of food, first aid kit, dressing clothes, tents, all sorts of things. And then you want a camera that's quite easy to just whip out and take some photos. So it all makes sense. And I'm hoping that helps you in this series of videos. Part of the photography live show, we're covering different elements of photography just to cover it and give you some inside information. Thank you for all the guests that came on today and gave us the footage to show on the show. Again, they're linked in the description, and make sure to check out the show notes where you'll see a link to everything we talked about today and the show sponsor. And we'll see you on the next week's photography live show.